A strong week at the Senior Bowl will reignite quarterback Garrett Nussmeier's 2026 NFL draft stock.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast. Cover your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst with Bleach Report. That's my guy, KC Sanchez. He's the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with the LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot for being our everydayers. It's time to scout the Senior Bowl, guys. We're about a week and a half or so away from the Senior Bowl kicking off. So Garrett Nussmeier, LSU's quarterback, who is coming off a down season for the Tigers, he gets to kind of reinvigorate his 2026 NFL draft stock. Talk about the dynamic Texas A&M wide receiver KC Concepcion. Could this be a Tank Dell-type of performance for him? And then Michael Trigg, the tight end class is a little bit up in the air behind Kenyon Sadiq. Could he make a case for tight end too? But before we get into that, today's episode is sponsored by Prospects. Download the Prospects app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Keith, when you think about the season that we saw from Garrett Nussmeier now heading into the Senior Bowl, what does the Senior Bowl? We kind of talked about this towards the end of the season after he got benched. It was like, man, we hope to see him in Mobile. We hope that he goes, he gets invited, and we got our wish, Keith. What could the Senior Bowl, a strong Senior Bowl week, do for Garrett Nussmeier after such a tumultuous season at LSU?
Yeah, I think that it can provide a platform for him to showcase what his true and raw talent is, right? The ability to throw the football to all three levels of the field, the ability to improvise, and something that he said, right? Because I was reading the interview that he did with the Draft Network, and he talked about how he wants to show his leadership, right? And this is a young man that I remember from recruiting and everything. He's always been one of those guys, right? That people attract to as far as the locker room, the players on the team, right? That they attract to, and that he understands, has a good understanding of people. We have to remember that this is the son of a coach who's been in the NFL for 10, 15, 20 years, right? So he understands those dynamic at a professional level. So for me, it's going to be about observing the young man that is Garrett Nussmeier, right? You're talking about the sideline interactions. How does he receive coaching and things like that? Because I believe he has plenty enough physical talents to play in the NFL. And my bold statement is that I'm not off of Garrett Nussmeier. I think this young man can play football. I feel like if you could do it once, you can do it again. We've seen it, right? Everybody that was probably associated with LSU's offense last year had a down year. And listen, they brought in a backup quarterback, right? Michael Van Buren, I think, was a former 4-star young man, played decent football in college before, and it's not like he looked exponentially better. I think there were things.
No, it still was a mess.
Yeah, fundamentally at the very core. So I'm going to be just observing Garrett Nussmeier just in the entirety. But like I said, the off the field, or let me say the non-play stuff, is going to matter as much as the play stuff, because and maybe it's because I've seen them in person, right? Like I know physical tools are there. Me, it's just going to be like, okay, what type of leadership? Because I think he can grow if he does that. I think people will be like, okay, hold on, this guy can be a leader.
Yeah, I think, for me, Keith, looking at him, I saw him in Clemson, and remember I texted you. I think I was texting you at the game. I was like, physically, he didn't look like the same guy I saw in 2024. And then we later on this year, I thought back to him like, wait, he had a core injury during training camp or during fall camp, like right before the season. They kind of downplayed it, like, oh, he's fine and stuff like that. But I was like watching him spin the ball, so I'm like, this is not the same arm talent that I saw last year in college football, where he was just ripping throws, hitting between two defenders, like velocity and everything was there. Not saying I never felt like he had a great or elite arm. I felt like he had a really good arm. I didn't see that in Clemson. So that's one of the things I'm gonna be looking for him is like, okay, you know what? You haven't played in 2 months, right?
Probably by the time we get to the Senior Bowl, it'll be close to 3, right? From
close to 3,
because he got benched at the first week of November, the Alabama game. So it'd be all of November, all of December, pretty much all of January. So it'd be closer to 3 months. Yep.
So if that core injury was lingering, right? Nobody would come out and say it specifically, but if that core injury was lingering and that impacted the way you could throw, how comfortable you work out. Again, I went back to the tape. I looked at the throws from this year compared to the throws from 2024. And I'm like, I see full rotation of the core. He's driving the ball with good mechanics. And then I watched him in 2025. I'm like, that's not how you threw the ball last year. So that core injury probably was hampering him and lingering throughout the season. If so, Keith, that's what I'm going to be paying attention. I'll be paying attention to how he's able to just handle all like okay, now if you're healthy, let's see you rip some of these throws. Let's see, and let me re-gauge that arm talent in person, because there were some throws where I was like, okay, last year you make this throw against Clemson, against Clemson. This year you didn't make it, right? Some balls went low, into the dirt. I want to see physically where he is and everything. But you said something I want you to kind of for the listener expound on. He said, I'm not either. We're not out on Garrett Nussmeier, right? What does that look like for you though? Like, if right now going into the Senior Bowl, if the draft were today, how high would you draft Garrett Nussmeier coming off of what we just saw?
If the draft was today, how high would I draft Garrett Nussmeier? I would take him in the second round, without a doubt. And then conversations for me would be had at the back end of the first round. And that sounds crazy to some people and a lot of people, right? But when you look at what Garrett was able to do throwing the football, when you just put his chart on, right, and you look at, put his film on, right, 10 minutes of Garrett Nussmeier highlights, you say, wow, right? You say, this is some of the best throws I've seen. And I just go back to past drafts, right? Like, I'm not sure Bo Nix is exponentially better than Garrett Nussmeier. I'm not sure J.J. McCarthy is better than Garrett Nussmeier. I'm not sure Michael Penix is better than Garrett Nussmeier. And I used those three quarterbacks, DP, because I was about to use my favorite guy, Jackson Dart. So what I'm saying with that, DP, is that I think there's still a lot of potential there. And when I look at the list of quarterbacks that's there, right, the Sawyer Robinsons, the Luke Altmaiers, the Taylor, right, Garrett should be the best quarterback there. And I'm looking for him to elevate himself, right? And now, I forgot about this young man, Tyler Shuck, right? Went and he didn't even elevate himself into a second round pick, DP. This was like past
it was a combine,
Senior Bowl, like, because it wasn't even buzz coming out of the Senior Bowl. It was just like, I remember walking past him during practice, and I was like, okay, this is a pretty well built kid, talking about Tyler Shuck, but there was no buzz like, hey, this guy could be a top 50, top 60 pick, right? Like, there was still none of that buzz. So I'm still in on Garrett Nussmeier from that perspective. I expect him to throw the football well and be an accurate passer, because that's what he's shown he could do in the past.
Yeah, I'm still in on him as well. I think I have like a third round grade on him right now, and I think that absolutely can move up. I want to see him healthy. I want to see him rip throws. I want to see, like, accuracy is never going to leave him. You know what I mean? Like, that's one of his calling cards. Now it's just more so, okay, showcasing that, like you said, the requisite arm strength and arm talent that we saw in 2024 on film that I didn't see in Clemson. I want to see that in Mobile. Rip some of these throws. I think this is a guy with the receivers that we're going to have in Mobile. It's a talented receiver group, and that's not even, this is missing a lot of guys. You know what I mean? From Cardell Tate, the Jordan Tyson, the Makai Lemon, Chris Brazo. There's a lot of dudes that won't be in Mobile, but this is a good Denzel Boston. Like, this is a good group of guys that they have built for the Senior Bowl. And you think about those one-on-ones, like, go out there and just be accurate, throwing the ball. When we get into 11 on 11s, like, knowing the playbook, being the smart headsy quarterback that you know the playbook, you already can kind of set protections, in practice, that they're showing you some pressures and different things like that, because that was something that he struggled with in college. Was like, hey, if we get pressure to him, like, that's when you can really kind of nullify him. Hey, you know what? If to stop the pressure from getting back there, set the protection, get guys lined up where they're supposed to be, and make sure that the pressure doesn't seep through. Or let me say this: you line everybody where they're supposed to be, and you trust that they don't let the protection through. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do it for them. You can just you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You can tell them, hey, this guy's hot. He's trying to. They're sending him slide this way. If they slide the opposite direction, that's not on you, big dog. You know what I'm saying? That's on the old line. So I want to see him be accurate, be decisive with the football. But I'm not gonna lie, Keith. I kind of want to see the gunslinger again, like in the good realm, like you know what I mean, like not the rolling to your right, throwing back across the middle. No, don't do crazy things like that. That's not smart. But just show me that you have the arm strength to just push that ball and say, you know what, I'm healthy now. I can drive this football.
Yep, I agree. But DP, let's do this, man. Let's talk about another SEC competitor, one of the best wide receivers in the SEC, Mr. KC Concepcion, wide receiver from Texas A&M. Let's discuss him and his Senior Bowl outlook and prospects coming up next.
New year, new systems. This is a time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. It's no surprise that Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on E2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. So make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free. Plus, get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnfl. That's QUO.com/lockedonnfl. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Ever wish you could become a pro QB, getting drafted first overall? Well, now you can. There's a mobile game just for you called Ultimate QB Football Legend. In this game, you step into the cleats of a #1 draft pick quarterback, and it's your job to lead your team to greatness to help turn a failing franchise into a dynasty. You believe that you can make quick decisions on the fly, under pressure, that you can be accurate with the football, that you can lead a franchise to the promised land? We'll prove it. Ultimate QB is totally free to play, has no ads, and works 100% offline. Perfect for when you want to get and sneak in a quick game or two on the go. Just head to ultimate-qb.com. That's ultimate-qb.com, or search for Ultimate QB in your app store. And we've got something special just for you guys. Use the promo code LOCKEDON, all caps, in the game store to get a free boost at the start of your career. Ultimate QB Football Legend. QB1 is your legacy, and you don't want to mess it up. KC Concepcion, star wide receiver from Texas A&M, 5'11", 190 pounds. Keith, and again, for those who don't know, I have 4 first-round grades on wide receivers. Jordan Tyson from Arizona State, Cardinal Tate from Ohio State, Makai Lemon from USC, and then KC Concepcion from Texas A&M. I think what we've seen this year from KC Concepcion was just a precursor of what you're going to get from a player like him in the NFL. I think the Senior Bowl could be his stamping himself moment, because we've seen it before. What we saw Tank Dell come out there, dominate one-on-ones. Nobody could cover him, or they didn't want to cover him after the first couple reps. We've seen Ladd McConkey go down there, be a route running savant. What was it? 2 years ago, we saw Roman Wilson come out there, have a really good week, get drafted with second round or something like that. I think top of the second round, somewhere in there. KC Concepcion, to me, in these one-on-ones, this is a player that coming out of NC State, he was used as a gadget receiver, and people thought that's all he could do. Texas A&M, Mike Elko, and that offense allow him to play wide receiver. He has a release package. He's a dynamic route runner. He's explosive with the football in his hands. He can sink and drive and have good sharp cuts and plants in terms of with his route running. Keith, I think this is an opportunity in those one-on-ones against some big corners and different things like that we're going to see in Mobile. This dude can walk out as one of the biggest money makers from the Senior Bowl. Really good to great week from him can absolutely solidify him as a top 25 prospect. To me, he should already be viewed as that. I know he didn't have the numbers of some of these other guys. He wasn't a Biletnikoff winner and stuff like that. But honestly, that's more so due to the fact that his quarterback wasn't the most accurate, at all 3 levels this year in terms of Marcel Reed. So you still have a guy that, if he was with a more accurate quarterback, he probably has 1,200, 1,300 yards, because he's opened a lot on film at all 3 levels, deep, intermediate and short, and then the playmaking ability with the ball in his hands, where he can be special. And you know how much the NFL looks at. Look what Luther Burton's doing for the Chicago Bears right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Luther Burton getting in the slot, catching those quick passes, making the first guy miss, and now able to get 7, 8 to 10 yards after the catch. That stuff matters. That's easy completions that move the chains. KC Concepcion brings that, and he might be a better, just more skilled receiver at this stage, because I didn't really, with Luther Burton, I worried about his release package, winning on the outside one-on-one when guys keep pressing him at the line. Leonard Moore, Mansour Delane, yeah, KC Concepcion gave both those guys all the hell they can handle. And I think these DBs better tighten up those cleats, Keith. Make sure you got your ankle braces on. Be ready for it.
Yeah, he is, for me, he's one of the top 2 or 3 receivers I'm most excited to see at the Senior Bowl, right? Throw in a Malachi Fields from Notre Dame, and throw in a Deion Burks, right, from Oklahoma. And I think these are probably I'll stick to the Deion Burks / KC Concepcion. Speaking of KC Concepcion, I think that he should show to be a route running technician, right? Like the ability to get open. I'm looking for the details in his game, right? The refinement. And I always said this, right? At LSU with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, it was about the details, right? The head fakes, the head nods, the arm action, right? The rocker steps. Top of their routes that made them great route runners versus everything else that people just like, oh, how fast do they run in a straight line? I'm looking for KC Concepcion to have some of that in his bag, right? The detailed elements of the game. So just to be able to see him up close and personal, I agree with you that I don't have a first round grade on him right at the very moment, but a performance out there, right? I could see putting him in the first round because of the skill set and what he does. So I'm definitely excited to see KC.
Yeah, man. I think, again, I mean, granted, Tank Dell was like what, 5'8", 170 something. So
I don't even know.
You know what I mean?
170. Yeah, he might have been.
It might be 165 somewhere. And he tore, like, I'll never forget Darius Rush, the cornerback from South Carolina, had a lot of hype coming into the Senior Bowl. People loved him. People like, man, this guy is going to be a riser. I did too. And I really believe his stock, him, Rajon Wright from Oregon State. I remember those corners that were down there that we talked to. Their stock plummeted because of Tank Dell. Like, you know what I mean? Tank Dell and how it wasn't just the route running. It was just how silly he made some guys look. Whereas, like, these guys trying to get hands on them, they're missing. How much separation he's creating. He's over here. They're far inside. Like, his ability to stop on the down.
And it translated to the NFL.
It absolutely, like, right out the gate as a rookie, him and CJ Stroud were cooking. That's why I keep telling. I know they drafted Jalen Noah and Jaden Higgins. I truly believe that the guy that they're waiting on is Tank Dell, and he returns to this offense healthy. I think this offense, as long as they have the offensive line straight, he's the guy that's going to really take them, a little bit higher and elevate that passing offense because of what he brings, the explosiveness, the route running, the short area pass catching ability, and yards after catch creation. I look at KC Concepcion. I think at 5'11", 190, this is a guy that can win on the outside, and he's done it on film. You know what I mean? I go back to the LSU game. He had success against Mansour Delane, who I'm really high on. Leonard Moore is he's going to enter this summer of summer scouting as CB1 for pretty much nearly everybody in the draft community. The number 15 for Notre Dame is that darn good, right? But I watched the tape of that game too, and I'm like, yeah, KC double moves, stop and goes, slant routes, like in the slot, in breaker, rocker step at the top, freezing them. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anybody put you through this type of work, Leonard. Like, you know what I mean? This season, Makai had some moments where he didn't get the ball and he was open, but for the most part, like, that was a lockdown performance. From Leonard Moore, but KC Concepcion gave him everything he could handle. So I think, going out here against those defensive backs, like I said, I think of Ephesian Prysock and Davison Igbanu. That's one I don't know. I know they were dropping. I haven't looked at it yet. They were dropping yesterday morning some of the teams, the American national team, stuff like that, letting you know what running backs and receivers and quarterbacks on which team. I hope that we have a Davidson Igbenusa from Ohio State and KC Concepcion on the same team, simply because of the fact that if we do, I want that one-on-one. Davidson Igbenusa is a physical, handsy corner who likes to make contact at the line of scrimmage. Well, guys, KC Concepcion is the guy that has a smooth release package. He understands feet first, hand second, and he's really sudden, explosive, and quick. And that's one of the one-on-ones where it's like, even if you time it right, if you could still miss with the KC Concepcion at the line of scrimmage. And if you miss, that's pretty much it for you. You know what I mean? Now you in trail and you got to play out the phase. And that's with a guy that with that level of speed and explosiveness, that's not a position you want to be in often.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. DP, let's do this, man. Let's keep this thing going and flowing. And let's talk about tight end Michael Trigg, right? You talked about he has an opportunity to be tight end too in his class. Let's discuss Michael Trigg and what he can do at the 2026 Senior Bowl.
As the new year gets going, a lot of people are trying to simplify their routines, and dinner is a big one. Between busy work days, cold winter nights, and packed schedules, having an easy, reliable dinner plan makes a huge difference. That's where Home Chef comes in. Home Chef takes the stress out of cooking by delivering fresh, pre-proportioned ingredients right to your door with easy-to-follow recipes that actually taste great. They're rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease, and it's easy to see why. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering my listeners 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Let's go to homechef.com/lockedon. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring? Well, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates, so you can spend more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot, for being our everyday. We're going to talk about Michael Trigg, as you heard Keith allude to, teasing this next topic. But Michael Trigg was somehow removed, for some reason, removed from the Senior Bowl tight end roster. He's no longer there when they dropped the roster graphics and everything, yesterday. So, yeah, it just kind of is what it is in that sense. So came in to talk about something that was more pressing, more, it's breaking news in a sense. It's big news for the draft, but not in a good way. Dante Moore, quarterback for Oregon, went on ESPN, did a whole little segment there, which I'm not really that. I feel like that was useless and a waste of time. Just could have made a graphic and put that out. But I'm not a fan of that specific decision, right? Just doesn't feel mature to me to be like, hey, let me jump on ESPN and tell you I'm going back to school, right? It's like, oh, okay, you couldn't have tweeted that? All right, great, whatever. But from a draft standpoint, he's going back to school. One less quarterback in what would seem to be a weak quarterback class. But it's I'll get to that in a second. But it's what presumes to be a weak quarterback class. Right now, it looks like only one quarterback that should be projected to be a first-round pick, and that is Fernando Mendoza. But please don't get it twisted. I expect Ty Simpson to more than likely hear his name on night one of the 2026 NFL draft. So we'll see how that plays out. But when you look at Dante Moore, he wants to go back to school. He wants to get better. He's going to get the NIL. and everything, right? Oregon has Nike money, and Nike has long money. They can do, he's gonna get every dollar and dime they promise him. Even talking to some of my guys around the industry, and I'm like, tell me I'm tripping, because I don't believe in, hey, go back to school, exhaust all of your eligibility, get all these snaps. You can throw the ball 4,000 times. It does not mean you're going to develop. This is a fact, guys. This is a fact. You can throw the ball 10,000 times in college, and it does not mean you're going to be successful in the NFL. Shout out to Dante Moore. He's taken a calculated risk on himself. He's betting on him, right? But this was a projected second overall pick. I talked to scouts that absolutely believed that if he came out, he was going to be second player off the board. The Jets were going to take him, right? And I'm just going with the information that's presented to me. And I believe that he would have been the second overall pick, because the Jets can't keep saying we're going to kick the can down the road on quarterback. So if there were going to be 2 quarterbacks in this class, they were going to take one, right? Well, they still could, but it won't be at 2. Now they have the ability to just say, you know what, we can wait, and we'll wait till 2027. But I want to forewarn everyone before we even get to that point. Summer scouting gets here, all of that. Guys, please, and I'm begging y'all, please, calm down. All right? You're sweating, you're panting like a dog in heat. Calm down, okay? Stop letting your favorite draft analysts hype you up. 2027 looks very talented. But I want to whisper something to you. So did 2026. So did 2026. We thought 2026 was going to be like, it was going to be everything, right? We thought it was going to be Sellers and Nussmeier as a first rounder, Klubnik, Aller as QB1. We thought all these things. And here comes Fernando Mendoza from Cal, transferring into Indiana, right? Ty Simpson played some great ball in the middle of the season from weeks 3, 4 to, the beginning of, I think, November. So, yeah, like, you know what I mean? Jaden Daniels, okay? Like, we've seen it, guys. We've seen guys come out of nowhere. So don't think it's going to be the same cast of characters. Dante Moore is playing a risky game. I commend him for betting on himself, but you have to deal with a lot of quarterbacks in the next cycle, right? Brendan Sorsby will be a senior, if I'm not mistaken, a senior with no more eligibility, right? You got Arch Manning, who everybody expects to be QB1. We'll see if that holds true. You got Lenore Sellers that everyone is expecting and hoping he continues to take the strides that he's shown in 2025, right? Like Nico Iamaleava is out there. Nico Iamaleava is at UCLA. It'll be his third year, and I think as a full-time starter. Second year for UCLA with a new head coach and everything coming in. You got DJ Lagway at Baylor. What if he takes that massive leap in his second year as a full-time starter, right? I think second or third, either way. But multiple time full-time starter. So what happens because these guys are all going to have more tools and better tools than you. So if that is the case, you could easily go from QB2 to QB7 within a blink of an eye. Not saying that's what's going to happen, but I'm just saying, guys, what if Brendan Sorsby lights it up at Texas Tech? What if Josh Hoover cooks? What if Julian Sayin wins the Heisman, goes undefeated, wins a national championship, and is the most accurate quarterback in the class? Yeah, that top 2 situation, hey, I hope the NIL money was worth it, right? At the end of the day, I understand the decision. And I'll say this too. If Dante Moore didn't play poor football the last 2 games, he declares for the 2026 NFL draft, right? I truly believe that. But I want you guys to pay attention to something. And remember that your boy DP told you. One of the knocks I had on him was tensing up and struggling under pressure. Well, Dante Moore is I think he's set to lose 3 of his 5 current starting offensive linemen. Isaiah World, Alex Harkey, and I believe it's Emmanuel Pregnon, the left guard. All 3 are supposed to be going to the NFL. I think either all 3 or 2 of the 3 will be in Mobile, supposedly, unless something changes. So you're going to have a new left tackle, a new right tackle, potentially a new left guard, and a new offensive coordinator. This could go south, to be completely honest, guys. This could absolutely go south, right? Losing Noah Whittington, losing Kenyon Sadiq, think Malik Benson's I believe he is a senior, so he might be leaving. There could be a lot of turnover at Oregon. And so if the offensive line is not protecting you, if you're not developing the mental aptitude to call plays at the line of scrimmage, to call and set protections at a consistent rate and do it the correct way, right? And get guys lined up. I mean, if you're not doing that, I don't know how you're like, what's the improvement's going to look like, right? And if you don't get tougher and say, I'm going to stand in the pocket, take this hit, and I'm going to drill this throw. I'm gonna send this laser beam right to my tight end. I'm gonna send this laser beam right to my wide receiver. If you're not doing those things, it just doesn't add up. So, guys, I'm just saying, man, good decision for him. Buy or sell is the right reason. It was the right move. To be determined. I think he should have came out and went and got coached up by NFL coaching staff, but nonetheless, I think that he's betting on himself, and I commend him for it. We'll see if it works out, because it's a strong chance it doesn't. It's a strong chance it could backfire. And then we're sitting here a year from now like, man, he probably should have declared. Ask Drew Aller, Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier. I'm just saying, those guys were projected, top 50 picks? Tyler Shuck went 40th overall. You telling me Drew Aller wouldn't have? With more tape and better tape potentially last year? Cade Klubnik coming off a strong year. Garrett Nussmeier, a little up and down, but way better than it was in 2025. Just saying, guys. Going back and chasing the NIL bag, it doesn't always work. Doesn't always work. So, but that's the show, guys. I had to, because of the Michael Trigg situation and then the Dante Moore news, say, hey, you know what? Let's pivot. So we pivoted, guys. But thank you so much for tuning in. Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. On tomorrow's show, we're previewing the national championship game. We're going to talk a little bit about Elijah Surratt, Fernando Mendoza. What do we need to see from Carson Beck? How can this game help or hurt draft stocks? We'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.